Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, we will go over Smelter's Wrath Shattered Lance HP Regen stacking Forge Guard. Finally, a reason to play Forge Guard outside of minions. I'm going to be honest here, this build is not the best build ever, obviously, but if you've ever wanted to stand still and not get completely punished in an ARPG, this is definitely the build for you. Before we get into the video, if you've been enjoying the steady flow of Last Epoch content, I'd suggest leaving a like, as that's the best way to support the channel currently. So with patch 8.4, legendaries were introduced. They are essentially unique items plus, equaling up to 4 extra affixes on every unique you own. They essentially made most set items look useless, so EHG took the go-ahead to buff all the set items, and we are currently using one of the sets for this build. The Shattered Lance set is a sword and relic that gives us 15% increased melee cold damage per 10 flat health regen we have on our character sheet. This alone can easily get us over 1500% increased cold melee damage on a lot of specs, especially on Sentinel, which can reach an insane 1k plus flat HP regen. And on this build, we have 2k HP. That is nearly half our HP regenerated per second. That allows us to tank the required tanks that we're obviously going to, thanks to the fact that we are standing still to do damage. Normally standing still would suck, but Smelter's Wrath makes up for this by having a lot of damage and having it applicable in a large AoE. This means as long as we can channel for 2 seconds, most enemies will die. Some rares, especially in 300 plus corruption, we might need to hit twice, which is fine thanks to the insane deicide buff granted to us from the Shattered Lance set, which gives us 20% more damage and 20% more movement speed, which is multiplicative with all your other movement speed, for 15 seconds, allowing us to make up for time we lose from standing still. Thanks to the fact that we are a Forge Guard, we have a lot of armor scaling. In most situations in the Monolith, we are close to 60-70% armor, depending on what's hitting us, meaning we can tank a lot more than your average build, even with dual wielding. The armor while channeling blessing is insane for us, giving us a large hefty chunk of flat armor to scale with all of our increased armor from potion and also from the mastery bonus of Forge Guard, making us gain percentage armor per time we've been hit recently, which if you pay attention to the counter can easily reach over 100 thanks to the fact in most situations we're obviously standing still and tanking everything. About at 250 to 300 corruption, there are things you can't tank. Some Orobyss attacks will still one-shot us no matter what. You need to understand what can tank, what you can tank, and what you can't tank, which kind of just comes with experience. Generally, most situations where you're getting hit by like 10 plus mobs is safe, but getting hit by one gigantic hit sucks. So be wary of where you're standing. One nice thing about this build is it takes the bad issues that the set has, meaning mainly lack of attack speed on the swords and lack of base crit on the swords, since Smelter's Wrath has auto crit in its tree and it doesn't care about attack speed. While also as well, Smelter's Wrath needs a lot of damage to work, which the swords give us, and you need to be tanky so that you can survive the first 2 seconds of attacking, which the swords also handle. So this is a nice combo of abilities and skills and items that equal more than the sum of its parts, which is really cool because finding little interactions like these is kind of what my whole job is about. One last thing I'd like to note, in-game my gear is all over the place just due to not being lucky enough to pull the right gear, or the fact that I've tried and failed 5+ builds tonight already, so my resources were drained lower than normal. But in the planner, I will have a finished build planner, and with the footage you can see here, it's already 300 plus corruption, and with better gear, this build just gets better. With all that being said, let's get into the video, shall we? Alright, here we are in-game with the build, with the Smelter's Wrath build. So the skill rotation for this build is simply going to, at the start of a mono, to simply do a sigil reversal trick, so you cast your sigils, then quickly cast your reversal to gain your mana back, And then, of course, the sigils on kill are enough to carry you throughout the rest of it. And sometimes you'll have to re up them during bosses, but a 15-second duration, I think not 15, I think 30-second duration, 25-second duration is plenty. And then after that, what you do is you just simply hold down Smelter's Wrath. And so one thing about the Smelter's Wrath thing is it only gets the auto crit when you're at full charge. So you want to be holding down the key until it lets go for you. Otherwise, you will actually lose damage, which is bad, obviously, right? There you go, 200k crit. Depending on how many ignites on them, you can do much more, as you can tell. There you go, like right there. That we can get much more here. You can actually, yeah, there you go, 350. You can actually tell because you can actually tell how many ignites are on the enemy. So 10 is your camp. I usually get around 6 or 7 on single target when I have all the burning patches on them. You could easily set up the build, have a little bit more ignite chance, especially on these idols. You could have ignite on high health and stuff like that, like this one, and almost reach like 10 stacks, which is your max, which is like fine. But like other than that, that's pretty much how you play the build. Now for skills, let's talk about Smelter's Wrath. So we are utilizing double deicide swords or double shattered lance. The problem with these swords is one, they lack attack speed, and two, they lack crit, meaning that we have to get those elsewhere. Well, Smelter's Wrath, as you can tell, since the channel doesn't really give a shit about attack speed, and we actually take 2 points travel into Blacksmith's Breath. So this does not affect the Smelter's Wrath damage while charging, meaning it's just a quicker charge, right? Eventually, when you get plus levels to Smelter's Wrath, these are the points you want to be putting into because it means the faster you pump through your Smelter's Wrath, the more DPS you do on a single target, obviously. So if you get a +2 Smelter's Wrath, which I don't have, this is where you put it in. If you get a +1 to physical, this is where you put it. Then 3 points travel into Stinging Seal. This doesn't really do much for us because we're taking the 1 point into Volcanic Mastery, which gives us a guaranteed critical strike at full charge, which is after the full charge, which eventually can get much quicker to like 1 second if we have all 5 points in this. And of course, 3 points travel into Whetstone. This gives us base physical. Doesn't really matter to us because we're scaling cold. 3 points into Forge Scale. This is kind of useless. Then, of course, 1 point into Detonation. This is the thing that makes it so we do like a cone attack so that we actually have clear. Without the cone attack, I'll be honest, Smelter's Wrath is kind of bad. So having the cone attack is nice. Then 1 point into Crucible. We want a burning patch, which will ignite enemies. It does increase our mana cost, which is fine, but we want to leave a burning patch on enemies so that we gain more damage per ignite stack, which I'll show you in a second. Then, of course, 1 point travel into Brightsmith. This increased crit chance does nothing for us. Then 2 out of 3 points out of Valiant, so you could probably get an extra point in here if you have enough plus levels to Smelter's Wrath, and you have some other pluses. This will give you a little bit more DPS boost. Then, of course, 2 points travel to Heavy Strike. I'm not entirely sure if this is increased or more. I haven't really gotten a confirmation. I'm just going to be safe to say that it is increased damage. Then 1 point into Tempering Blows. This gives us more hit damage per ignite stack, which caps up to 10, meaning that if we have 10 ignite stacks, we will do 150% more damage. As you can tell there, 1 second here, I can actually show you what it looks like. Give me a second here. Just give me a second. About 865. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get up to the max without like doing some shenaniganry. So like mainly this is just a bunch of more damage. Just think of it as a bunch of more damage on single target. And that's pretty much it for Smelter's Wrath. Then for Sigils of Hope, this is your stereotypical Sigils of Hope tree. The one thing that is very important though is we're grabbing Mediation, which doubles our health regen for sigil. So if we have 4 sigils, we gain 25% per sigil, which is up to 100% health regen. And since we're based on health regen for damage, this doubling this to 200%, the difference is actually quite staggering. So we're at 686 without sigils, well, 839 with sigils. That is absolutely nuts. Like the whole reason to play this kind of build on Sentinel is for the Sigils of Hope health regen thing. Gives us close to like 300% increased damage just by the health regen stuff alone, not including all the other stuff. So really strong. Stereotypical setup for your volatile reversal. Not really much different here. Although, do not take these notes. I trolled myself. I took these nodes. I forgot that this is reduced health regen. So if you take these nodes, you'll have 20% less health regen, which is 20% less damage, quote unquote. So it's like, don't take these nodes. I trolled myself really hard. And of course, we have lunge. This is your stereotypical lunge setup. Mainly, we're trying to get the coal so we can kill bosses faster, trying to get the smites on enemies, as you'll see later why. Then, of course, extra stack so that we can lunge through monoliths very quickly. Dawn charge, which is a lot of sustain. This build obviously needs a little bit of help with burst healing. Like, obviously, you know, we get a bunch of HP regen, but if Orobyss smacks us really hard and we need to gain our HP back, that's what Dawn charge is for. Then, of course, Blade Stream, this just makes it so we hit enemies through the path, which can ignite them and stuff like that. It's not really too useful, but there's nothing else to grab. And then, of course, for Smite, the main reason we're using Smite is this node right here, Soothing Bomb. So when we take damage and we're healed by Smite, we gain health regen on heal and mana regen on heal. Both of these stats are very important. Smelter's Wrath costs a lot of mana, and the health regen on heal obviously is broken. So for us is insane. And like, that's mainly what we use Smite for. It does heal us a little bit thanks to Grace and stuff like that. Gives us some attack speed and stuff and cast speed for our sigils and our lunge and all that. But mainly we just want it for this node because it's nuts. And that's pretty much it for the skills. Now for the passives here, 8 points into Fearless because we want the HP regen. There's a lot of HP regen. 5 points to Armor Clad. Pretty much we're always going to be near enemies. 5 points to Valiant Charge. Makes it so we can spam lunge faster, so we can make up for the lost time we make in Monolith, so we can spam lunge. 5 points in the Time of Faith. Sometimes we do run out of mana and it's a little annoying, so we actually end up using Smite to gain mana back. On my gear, I do not have, I have mana regen here, but I don't have mana regen here. I don't have mana regen here, and I think I have mana regen here. If you have mana regen here and here, you won't need to use Smite to gain mana back as often. And we take 1 point into Gladiator, so we can obviously duel with the swords. Then for Void Knight, stereotypical Void Knight setup, just get the HP, Fizz Res, Void Res. We are running the Solarian step, so we direly need the Fizz Res. Then, of course, 1 point to Void Corruption for 11% extra crit multi, which we can't really get that much crit multi because the fact that we're running set swords instead of like rare swords, meaning we can't put crit multi on them. Also, as well, we have a set relic, meaning we can't put crit multi there as well. So as much crit multi as possible with this build. Then for Paladin here, stereotypical Paladin setup, just get some elemental resistance, get some HP, get some resistance HP. This healing effectiveness does apply to Smite, which is kind of nice. Then for Forge Guard here, 10 points into Weapons Master, gives us increased armor and gives us 70% increased damage overall. It's kind of potatoes in comparison to how much the set swords are giving us, but every little bit helps. Then 1 point travel into Fresh from the Forge, 10 points to the Guardian, as much HP as humanly possible. We end up stunning everything when we hit them anyways. 8 points into Champion of the Forge for increased damage while wielding. Oh, trolled myself again. Don't actually grab these. Probably just grab some more HP or, yeah, I actually don't know what you'd grab instead of that. I feel like an idiot. I am tired. Probably grab this armor instead. Yeah, grab this flat armor instead. Perfect node. And of course, this extra node can go into Fizz Res or armor, probably. Yeah. So just grab this Thorn Mail instead, and you'll be completely fine. You'll actually end up being much tankier than I am right now. 6 points to Crushing Blows gives us 1% increased 3% increased damage per 1 mana cost. Our Smelter's Wrath costs a staggering 55 mana, so we gain 75% increased damage from that, which is nuts. And of course, the mana regen is very helpful since we're chugging mana with the Smelter's Wrath. 6 points into Might, increased health is very strong since all of our affixes are going towards HP regen. 4 points travel into Duelist. This increased melee crit chance doesn't really help us because we are auto critting anyways. 6 points into lethal strikes. One of the main reasons to go Forge Guard is the crit multi at the top of the tree. Obviously, of course, so we can't get Smelter's Wrath if we're not a Forge Guard, but this is the other reason we're going Forge Guard. Then 5 points into Infinite Bulwark for the increased armor on potion use, meaning that we can get even tankier if we just pop a potion, which is nice. One thing to note, this is the one time I will mention a mastery bonus. So increased armor for each hit you have taken recently in the last 10 seconds. This is overpowered as all heck sometimes, especially since we're playing Smelter's Wrath and we're standing still. If you get up to like 100 stacks, which is normal, it's like 300% increased armor. So that is a lot of mitigation. And that's pretty much it for the passives. Now for the gearing here, of course, obviously you want double Shard of the Shattered Lance and a Fragments of the Shattered Lance. If you don't know where to farm that, it'll be here in the Stolen Lance timeline. These are the 50-50 drops of the Shattered Lance, the Stolen Lance timeline. So it should be very, very easy for you to get these right off the bat. It's like 68, level 68. You'll have them in no time. Just kill Orobyss a few times. You could probably do it on the Holy Trail Paladin, which I'll probably link that in the description. That's probably the build you should be playing until you get this set up. Then, of course, for the helmet, I am missing Smelter's Wrath damage and Smelter's Wrath level, so you can get even more damage. Obviously, the health regen is really nice. That's why I'm wearing it. If we hover over here. So with the new systems, with like the dungeon farming and all that, stuff like this is actually a lot more common than you think it is now, especially if you have like a dungeon farmer. If you want a dungeon farmer, I'd suggest the Abomination Dungeon Farmer because it's really nice. But like I said, either you'd run this on the crit avoid helm, or you could run it on the crit multi helm, which I am now. Crit multi is really nice. We don't get that much crit multi. That's why we're forced to run a Saurians. We get up to like 360. I would like to be at 400%, which is like ideal. This amulet's absolute trash. Just literally just something I found in my stash. So like health regen, that's mainly what it is. You want crit multi, mana regen, or cold pen, and then resistance, HP regen, or frailty. Probably, I don't think you run frailty on this because you don't hit enough. Then of course, chest, wrong, Smelter's Wrath damage, then vitality, then HP regen. You could either run a Dawn Plate or you can use a crit vuln base. It depends on if you have crit vuln from Dragon. So you can get crit vuln from here. So this increased physical, which is doing nothing for me. One note, you probably want empowered health regen. I do not have empowered health regen, but you probably want empowered health regen because that would help a lot. Then for the rings, garbage ring, pretty much, like not actually built for what my build is. You want strength, mana, because you want strength because you want increased armor, because as much armor as humanly possible to make you as tanky as possible, and nothing else really helps you. You could run cold percentage damage, but like I said, that's potatoes in comparison to how much we're getting from the Shattered Lance setup. Then mana regen, HP regen, resistance, crit, or endurance. Then for the belt, mana regen, cleanse pot, probably either because when you're standing still, you want to be able to cleanse those poisons. Then HP and then health regen. I have crit avoid here. That's where I'm getting a lot of my crit avoid right now, but obviously you can shuffle things around. Then for the other ring, you want coral rings because you want the flat HP regen, obviously. The strength, mana regen, crit avoid, resistance, endurance, the usual fanfare. The gloves, absolute garbage gloves. They're the only gloves I have with health regen on them. Like, it's funny, like some of my gear is really strong and some of it's really ass. Crusader gauntlets, obviously. You want strength, and then I don't know what else you run. Probably, I don't know what else you run. Probably attack speed or cast speed. Cast speed might be the best because it'll make it so you can cast smite faster, so that when you do run out of mana, you gain back mana faster. So maybe cast speed instead. Obviously, you don't need it. And of course, regen. Boots, you want Saurians, is one of the best crit multi bases in the game. This makes up for the fact that you're running set swords instead of like crit multi swords. So this is like pretty much mandatory as a forge guard. Forge guards get a lot of physical resistance, as you can tell, so it's nice to have extra. You can make up for that by running physical resistance, health regen things, physical resistance. Like you have plenty of physical resistance, it completely makes up for it. Learning this trick helps a lot of forge guards because it's like, well, your idols are kind of shit except for the health regen ones now. They're kind of shit, so it's nice to have a way of turning your idols into damage, which you can here. Then, of course, the set, which you can grind. All the stats on this are pretty nice, though. Increased health regen, the base health regen of the relic, then, of course, increased melee cold. I think that goes up farther, yeah, to 70%, yeah. And this is a really good relic. So it's not rolled well, but obviously like the relic itself is really good for this build. But with all that being said, I think that's it for the gearing. I think that's for the build. Obviously for idols, you want health regen, 4 health regens, then 4 HP stuff. But like you can run obviously resistances. But yeah, you want as much health regen as possible. Rolls up to 46. That's like another 160% health regen on top of everything else, which is really strong. And with all that being said, I believe that's it for the build. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.